guys, so we are now on week 2 of Pretty and Wild Devotional. So this week is called Trust the Roots. There is that blooming season where we see the beautiful flowers, we celebrate them, we inhale their fragrance, we take photos of them. But what I think it's really overlooked and not celebrated is the rooting season. You know, a lot of times in life we are expecting certain things or waiting for certain things. We think that if we see no results, then nothing is happening. But if you look at nature, it tells a different story. And the story is that, you know, once a seed is planted, there's a process that has to happen before you see that bloom. You know, the seed is planted, and what happens? It has to birth roots first. And those roots are important because those roots are what carry us through storms and help us to break through stone. And if those roots are weak, they're not going to survive. So, and all of this is taking place where you can't see what's happening. Others can't see it. You might not see the results yet. You don't see the bloom yet, but there's still something happening beneath the surface. And this part is really, really important. So, you know, I asked myself, what do I do when I don't see immediate progress in an area of my life? And I think that I do one of two things. One, you know, depending on where my mindset is at, I feel frustrated. I feel like what's the point? Nothing's gonna happen. I'm tired of waiting. You start comparing yourself to other people. You start feeling defeated. You kind of just get stuck. You get stuck beneath the surface and stay in that rooting season because you're not yet ready to break through. Or I will stop and really spend some time thinking about why I'm maybe not seeing that progress yet. It could be because it's not the right time. Sometimes there are waiting periods. For me personally, as you guys know, I have wanted children probably for about 20 years now. That's a very, very, very long time. And I know that I'm going to be an amazing mother one day. I have such a big heart. You know, my husband and I, we have a beautiful home waiting for a child. And why hasn't it happened? You know, there are other things, and I'm a big dreamer. I'm a visionary, and there are things that I want to see happen, and sometimes they take longer. Healing sometimes healing can be a long process. And we just want to be able to do what we wanted to do right away, and it doesn't look like that. And I think what we don't realize is that in that waiting period, there's a lot of growth happening inside of you, a lot of strength happening inside of you. Over these years that I have been waiting for certain things to happen, whether it's waiting for a child, or when I was waiting for a husband, or when I was waiting for physical healing, when I was waiting for, when I used to work in corporate America and I wanted to start my own business, there was a waiting period before I could go out and start it. There was a period where I wanted to hire other people to work for my company, and there was a process that, I had to wait. And during that waiting period, there's so much growth. Like when I was in corporate America, I love art. I'm a full-time artist now. And I wanted for so many years to be able to just go and do art and make a living from it and live happily ever after. But during all of those years when I was working in corporate America, I had a lot of different jobs. And I learned sales, I learned customer service, I learned marketing, I learned management, project management, and I learned to love spreadsheets, which is odd for an artist, but I do. I use both sides of my brain. I enjoy the planning and the organizing. And I really learned a lot of programs and platforms to be able to later on successfully run a business. I also learned when I was managing other people, how to manage people. So during all of that time, I was frustrated and I wanted to feel free. but there was a process. And during that process, I learned all of those skills. I learned how to strengthen as a individual and as someone who could run a business. And I'm glad now for all of those years when I felt stuck, when I was in that rooting system and my roots were growing. I'm grateful for it now because it prepared me so that when I did finally bloom and I broke through the surface, I was able to do it so much easier and be so much more successful at it. And I feel like if I hadn't had all of that waiting period for my roots to grow stronger, then it would not have looked the way it looked. I might have broke through the surface and the sun would have hit me and I would have wilted. And I think this happens to a lot of people in a lot of different areas where they're waiting for something. But in the end, we're all gonna bloom anyways. And we have to remember that. Like during the waiting process, you have to know, like, I'm gonna bloom. You have to think about what's blooming beneath the surface. What is there that's happening right now below the surface that I need to be grateful for? And we need to learn to trust the gardener. And that's a hard thing because you have to trust God in something that you cannot see, which is what trusting Him is. So what would I do differently if I did trust God's timing? It would be filled with more joy and peace during the process and waiting season. So during this season, instead of feeling frustrated and like, what's the point? Instead, I would actually have great joy and peace because I know there's something amazing happening. And I'm celebrating the season of the rooting. I'm celebrating the season of the unknown, what's happening underneath the surface, and how much I'm growing and the strength that's happening because I'm not so focused on, but I want this right now. I would celebrate the roots and the inner strength that's waiting to bloom. I would spend less time worrying and trying to control the outcome. I would use more energy for today instead of the future that I can't see. That one's a huge one. Like, all the energy that we spend every single day on thinking about things and worrying about things and trying to control them and trying to plan them, all of the energy could go instead to being, I'm so grateful for what God is doing inside of me today. I am so grateful because I know that when the time is right, I'm going to bloom and it's going to be beautiful and it's going to be amazing. And I know that He has the best for me. I would nurture who and where I am today more and be more present. So, last week we were talking about how our body is not our enemy, and the movement was to do 10 minutes, of walking every day. And I kept that promise to myself, and it felt amazing. I felt so good. And what I found was that when I went out and I walked those 10 minutes every day, I actually felt like a momentum inside of me and a growth for more. I went through a lot of health issues. I went through fertility treatments, and they made me very, very sick. They disrupted all of my hormones. They caused my cortisol levels to go really high, caused me to have like an anxiety panic disorder, which came out of the blue. Had no idea what it was. I was like so happy in my life. All of a sudden my body was going crazy. And because of all those things, it really affected me physically. And I gained a lot of weight. I lost a lot of strength, a lot of endurance. And I just felt weak. You feel like, you can't achieve it. And that last week, it was about just, instead of focusing on the mountain, just making little goals for yourself and taking away the pressure and being able to enjoy them. And I feel like last week I was able to just enjoy going out and walking instead of thinking about the outcome. Right now, my roots are growing. I have these goals of where I want to be physically. I want to be healthy. I want to be strong. And I want to be there now, but that's not reality. Reality is that things take a process. And right now I am trusting the roots. I'm trusting that as I go through this process, that those roots are going to take deep, deep ground and grow strong so that when I do bloom, I'm going to be able to continue going forward and not fall backwards and keep struggling. And healing is not linear. Healing isn't a straight line where it just goes on forever looking the same way. When I went to therapy to deal with my infertility grief, I kept telling the therapist, I don't understand why sometimes I'm doing really great and I feel like I've really overcome a lot of this pain. And then all of a sudden something will happen and I feel like I, get sent backwards. And it makes me feel like, did I not really heal? Did I not really achieve any of these things? Did I not really make any progress? And she was like, no, healing is not linear. It can go up, it can go down, backwards, forward. And it's okay. It's okay. You have to give yourself grace in the healing process. And you have to remain grounded. You have to remain grounded in God. And we only have one life to live. And I think that life, every single day when we wake up, shouldn't be so focused on the results. It should be focused on the growth and what's happening today. The little successes, the healing, the strengthening. That part of this process is so important and so beautiful. And I think that it just really gets overlooked. Nobody takes pictures of the roots. Nobody digs up the roots and is like, oh, let me take a picture of the roots. They just want to take a picture of the flower. But we know that we can basically celebrate those roots. So we need to surrender our timeline. We need to surrender our timeline to God and say, I give you this desire in my heart, the seed that's growing. I don't know when the blooming is going to happen, but I trust you, God, and I am going to be patient in the waiting. And just choosing gratitude over measuring our progress. I think this whole society of like just wanting to go and see the results so quickly, it not only robs us of our joy, but it robs us of the lessons. It robs us of the wisdom in that period. We just rush through things and we miss out on all the substance that is so important for not only the process, but for the result and what's going to happen afterwards. If you just want a child and you don't allow God to work in your heart to prepare you to be a mother, it might look a little bit different if you rush that process than if you are patient and allow God to work in your heart. God has done so much in my heart over these years to transform the way that I see motherhood. And, to be honest, I feel like if I had been younger when I would have had a child, I definitely feel like I would have been more selfish and I would have had to just learn as I was doing it. But I think that all of this time has really helped me to think about things in a deeper way and have more wisdom before I actually become a mother than during the process. And I think that is something beautiful because, there may be things that my children don't have to go through because I learned those lessons before I even had them. So I hope you have enjoyed week 2 of Pretty and Wild Devotional. I would love for you guys to share with me pieces of your journey. Just reach out to me. I am so excited to hear from you. I had a woman reach out to me this week. She sent me a photo of her and her son, and they were doing their 10-minute walk out in nature. She sent me some pictures of flowers, and that just made my heart be filled with so much joy and gratitude because this is why I'm doing it. I'm doing it for myself, but I'm also doing it with you, and I want to partner together on this journey. And so you guys sharing what you're doing on your end makes it become interactive, and I think that's so much more beautiful than it just being me sharing with you guys. So thank you again, and I can't wait to share week 3. God bless you guys.